Chapter 1. The Gift of Disgrace. The hum of Elyndra Nexus was everywhere, not just the low, constant vibration of fusion cores deep inside its spine, but a living thrum that seemed to pulse through the air like breath. Clara Graham, Delaney stepped from the docking platform into a corridor slick with liquid metal that shimmered like quicksilver under the glow of violet lights. Overhead, glyph-like signs flickered in alien script, their glow throwing odd shadows against her worn leather coat. The air smelled of ionized steel and faintly of spice, something she had learned to associate with alien marketplaces, and now with disgrace. Behind her, the Dominion court guards moved with mechanical precision. Their segmented armor hissed softly with every step. Clara heard them speaking in clipped tones, a language of clicks and hums she did not understand, and she knew they were mocking her. She kept her head high anyway. That stubborn human pride was something no species could extinguish. Even here, she was dragged into the heart of the station, the court of iron glass. The chamber pulsed with cold light, and far above, a great dome shimmered with starlight. Dozens of Dominion spectators stood silent, watching from their seats arranged in perfect tiers. Clara's boots clicked against the polished floor as she was pushed forward, her wrists bound by glowing cuffs that hummed faintly. At the center of the chamber sat the Tribunal, a council of 6 tall beings with translucent skin, eyes that glowed faintly blue, and voices that resonated like wind through crystal. One of them stepped forward, its many-jointed limbs moving with unnerving grace. It spoke in a language that made the air vibrate, then translated into Galactic common. Clara Delaney of Earth, you are convicted of relic smuggling, corruption of the trade code, and trespass in the Hall sectors. The sentence of the Dominion Tribunal is unusual. A ripple of murmurs swept the crowd. Clara's stomach tightened. She had expected imprisonment or exile, not whatever horror they were preparing. The tribunal speaker continued. You will not die. You will be cast into the cell of Korath, the Dominion's most dangerous dragon. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Clara blinked. Dragon? Her voice was low, defiant. Yes, it said without hesitation. To face it as punishment and a test, perhaps even a gift. Before she could speak, the cuffs pulsed again. A magnetic field swept her forward, and the world blurred into a rush of metallic corridors, flickering lights, and a scent like molten iron. Somewhere deep inside the station, a low growl resonated, a sound not mechanical, not animal, but something ancient and alive. Clara pressed her back against the wall, her heart pounding, and whispered to herself, They think they can break me. They don't know who they've thrown in with their dragon. The cell doors loomed ahead, immense, dark, and humming with power. Beyond them, Korath waited. Chapter 2. The Dragon and the Human. The cell was worse than Clara had imagined. The door before her was a slab of black alloy etched with flowing runes that pulsed faintly, as if alive. The air inside smelled of scorched stone and ozone, a scent that sank deep into her lungs and left her trembling. Light came only from a faint blue glow beneath the edges of the door, and from the low hum that vibrated the floor beneath her boots. Somewhere beyond that steel threshold was Korath, the dragon of the Dominion's nightmares. She swallowed hard. Her cuffs loosened slightly, enough to allow her fingers to flex. She stepped forward, every footfall measured against a faint vibration underfoot. The air temperature shifted the closer she came, warming, then suddenly cooling, like walking the breath of a living storm. A sound broke the silence, low, deep, resonant. Not a growl, not a roar, but something in between. It was intelligence speaking without words. Clara froze. Korath? She whispered. The sound wasn't exactly an answer, but vibration moved the floor and walls. A ripple of acknowledgement. The cell door slid open without warning. Light exploded in her eyes. molten gold and silver rippling across armored scales, each plate etched with alien runes that glowed faintly. Korath was larger than anything Clara had ever seen, a creature forged of biology machine, its body a fusion of living sinew and star-forged alloy. Its eyes were twin stars, deep and impossibly old, glowing with a strange awareness. The dragon's head tilted toward her. Steam hissed from vents along its neck, and the air pulsed with a low mechanical hum. It exhaled, and the smell of burning metal mixed with a faint scent of something floral and strange, like alien orchids. Clara stepped back instinctively, yet her eyes never left the creature's. "You're not going to eat me?" she asked softly, partly to break the tension, partly because her voice trembled. Korath's throat vibrated again. Then, in a voice that was both inside her mind and around her, it said, "Eat? No, I do not eat prisoners. They are waste. You are different." Clara swallowed. "Different how?" The dragon lowered its head, bringing those glowing eyes level with hers. "Because you do not fear. Because you speak without screaming. Because you think." A strange warmth rose in her chest, part defiance, part wonder. No alien before had ever spoken to her like that. She realized something. This was no mindless beast. Korath was intelligent, terrifyingly so. "I'm not afraid of you," she said quietly, "and I'm not here to break. You can't know what humans are capable of. Not yet." Korath's gaze lingered on her, then it stepped aside, gesturing toward the cell beyond. A tunnel of light and sound stretched out before her, a cage, but also a challenge. Clara drew in a deep breath and stepped forward. Her cuffs glowed faintly, the hum of their power mingling with Korath's low vibration. Somewhere deep inside the station, Clara thought she heard a whisper. This would not end well, but perhaps it must. And then the cell swallowed her. Chapter 3. Echoes of Home. The cell was a cathedral of silence. Korath's domain was not stone or steel in any ordinary sense. The walls shimmered with shifting patterns, as though woven from living energy. Beneath her boots, the floor pulsed like a heartbeat, faintly glowing with pale blue light. The air was warm now, tinged with scents she could not name, ozone, molten metal, and something faintly sweet like alien blossoms. Clara realized she could hear her own breath, her pulse, the hum of Korath's scales as the dragon shifted nearby. Korath was curled along one side of the cell, a massive coil of armor and sinew. Its head rested on clawed forelimbs, eyes glowing faintly. The creature regarded her without hostility, but with a quiet, unsettling patience. Clara stood still, unsure whether to speak first. Finally, she said softly, "Why me? Why throw a human into your cell?" Korath's throat vibrated again, slow and deliberate. "Because you are stubborn. Because you survive." "That doesn't sound like punishment," she replied. Her voice carried a mixture of sarcasm and defiance. She stepped closer, studying the dragon's massive frame. "You could have eaten me already. Why not?" "Because prisoners are not food." Korath's voice was low but unmistakable in her mind. "They are waste, and waste does not teach. You are curious." The words made her pause. She crouched, brushing her fingers across the glowing scales nearest her. The plates were warm, hard, yet almost organic. "Curious? Me? Maybe. But I think you're curious about me, too." Korath shifted, a sound like grinding crystal echoing through the cell. "Yes, you carry something strange, a scent of defiance. And of home." Clara's chest tightened. "Home is something humans never give up, no matter where we are. Doesn't matter if it's a settlement on Mars, a trading station on Titan, or some prison cell in a dragon's lair. We remember. We fight for it." She looked away briefly, eyes tracing the shimmering walls. "That's why we survive. For a long moment, Korath was silent. Then it shifted its great head closer, the air vibrating with the sound of its voice. "Tell me of this home." And so Clara began to speak. Of Earth's oceans, of forests that breathe with life, of dusty plains under endless sunsets, of her own family farm back on a quiet world called New Terra. Her words came in fragments at first, then in steady flow, as though she were weaving a tapestry of memory. Korath listened without interrupting, its luminous eyes reflecting something she could not name. Maybe respect, maybe longing. When she finished, she found herself trembling, not from fear, but something else. A strange kinship. Korath spoke again, softly, almost reverently. "You carry the weight of your species. That is why you are different. That is why you survive." Clara gave a faint, bitter laugh. "Maybe that's my curse. Or maybe it's my gift." The dragon shifted, the sound of its scales echoing like thunder. Somewhere deep in the bowels of Elyndra Nexus, the station pulsed with life, as if answering her words. Clara realized she was no longer just a prisoner. She was something else entirely, a human who might prove worthier than her captor suspected. Korath's gaze held hers. "Then we will see." Chapter 4, The Heart of Rebellion. The air in Korath's cell was charged now, not just with the hum of the dragon's power, but with Clara's quiet determination. She paced along the edge of the glowing floor, her cuffs pulsing faintly as they adjusted to her every movement. Korath watched her without shifting, its great head resting on its armored forelimbs, eyes like molten suns fixed on her. "We need a way out," Clara said finally. Her voice was low, almost conspiratorial. "They brought me here to break me, but breaking me won't work. You and I, we can get out of here." Korath's throat vibrated. "Your logic is unusual. Why ally with your captor?" "Because you're not my captor," Clara said, meeting its gaze steadily. "You're my only shot at survival. And if I'm going to survive, I'm going to take you with me." Korath emitted a sound low and contemplative, the vibration rippling through the cell. Then it shifted, rising to its full, terrifying height. The scales along its neck shimmered like liquid metal. "Speak your plan." Clara crouched by the wall, her fingertips brushing against the cold alloy. Beneath the surface, she felt something, a faint warmth, the pulse of an ancient control matrix. She had seen similar tech before in the black markets of Zereth Prime. With the right tools, she could disrupt the cell's locks. Her plan came together in bursts of breathless thought. "There's a control terminal nearby, within the central chamber. I can override it if I get close enough. We'll need a distraction. That's where you come in." She grinned faintly. "You're the distraction every prisoner dreams of." Korath's chest plates vibrated softly. "You underestimate Dominion control. And you underestimate human stubbornness," she shot back. The first part of their plan began almost immediately. Clara waited until the guards outside their cell shifted patrols. Then Korath moved. Its massive limbs slid forward with surprising grace, the floor trembling with each step. A low hum built deep in its throat, a sound like rolling thunder, and the air shimmered with heat and pressure. The outer wall of the cell pulsed and flared as Korath unleashed a burst of sonic flame, filling the corridor with blinding light and a sound that rattled bones. Clara darted forward through the chaos, her cuffs glowing as she tapped into the control matrix with deft fingers. Sparks ran along the alloy walls, the air filling with the scent of burnt circuitry and ozone. "Almost there," she whispered under her breath. A guard screamed somewhere ahead. Clara's pulse quickened. She stole a glance at Korath, who was turning its enormous head toward her, eyes glowing brighter. There was something almost human in that gaze, a flicker of trust. She forced the final override. The corridor doors groaned and slid open. Clara glanced back. Korath stepped through with her, each movement a wave of controlled fury. Together, they bolted into the labyrinth of Elyndra Nexus, the station alive with the pounding of alarms and the cries of Dominion guards. Somewhere behind them, Korath's voice rumbled in her mind. "This is your rebellion," and Clara knew it was only the beginning. Chapter 5. The Crucible of Humanity. The corridors of Elyndra Nexus became a living nightmare. The air vibrated with alarms, the metallic pulse of the station growing louder with every step. Light stuttered in fractured bursts along the walls, and the scent of scorched steel and burning circuitry clung to Clara's nostrils. Somewhere deep ahead, the hum of Dominion war engines thrummed like a heartbeat of war. Clara darted through the winding passageways, Korath close behind, its massive frame filling the corridor. Every step it took was a measured earthquake. The dragon scales glimmered with living energy, humming with power that made the air itself seem to ripple. Clara's cuffs glowed faintly, interfacing with the cell override she had triggered. Every step brought them closer to freedom, or to destruction. "We need the launch bay," Clara said breathlessly, her voice cutting through the hum. Her fingers worked fast, swiping over a control panel mounted into the wall. Holographic schematics flickered to life, showing multiple routes. The fastest path was through the Dominion's central core. That meant facing their most lethal defenses. Korath's breath came in low, resonant pulses. "You underestimate their will to kill you." Clara shot him a sharp glance. "And you underestimate human stubbornness. Let's go." They moved like ghosts through the labyrinth. Guards swarmed in the distance, the air filling with shouts and alien clicks. Korath unleashed blasts of sonic flame, its roar a thunderclap that rattled the station. Clara ducked through a plasma burst, her coat catching fire for an instant before she stamped it out. Somewhere ahead, the station's central core pulsed with terrifying light, the heart of Dominion control. Clara reached it first. She worked fast, interfacing her cuffs with the core's control matrix. Sparks flared, and the air filled with a scent like burning glass. Korath fought off guards in the corridor behind her, each movement a blur of strength and precision. Clara's breath came in ragged bursts as her mind raced to override the locks. "They're coming!" Korath's voice was in her mind now, urgent. Clara's fingers flew. "Almost there, almost." She slammed her palm to the console. The hum shifted, the station shuddering violently. "Got it." The corridor exploded in a burst of red light and force. Korath roared, not a sound of rage, but a triumph. Together they burst through the launch bay doors, the airlock opening onto the endless void. Stars spilled across the viewport, vast and untamed. Clara staggered forward, breathing hard. "We made it!" Korath stepped beside her, its chest vibrating softly. "We made it, but the war is not over." The stolen vessel before them was sleek and alien, its hull shimmering with strange energy. Clara climbed aboard, Korath moving beside her with a grace that belied its bulk. As the airlock sealed, she glanced back at Elyndra Nexus, its heart still thrumming in the darkness. "Korath," she said softly, "we survived this together. Whatever comes next." Korath's voice was deep and certain. "Then we are bound. You and I." The vessel surged forward, engines igniting with a roar that rattled bones. Stars became streaks of light, and Clara knew there was no turning back. Somewhere ahead lay freedom, and something even more dangerous. Hope. Chapter 6. Legacy Among the Stars. The stolen vessel drifted through the velvet black of space. Stars stretched into endless rivers of light, and nebulae glowed in impossible colors beyond human naming. Clara stood at the viewport, her hands resting on the cold alloy of the console, her breath steadying after the chaos of their escape. Korath was beside her, its vast head lowered, the hum of its body merging with the gentle vibration of the ship. For the first time since her capture, Clara felt something close to peace. The station that fled, Elyndra Nexus, was behind them now, a distant constellation swallowed in the dark. Ahead was something unknown, a galaxy of possibilities. Koratha's voice came into her mind softly. You speak often of home. Will you find again? Clara's fingers tightened around the rail. Home isn't a place, Korath. It's what we carry with us. She turned to look at him, her eyes reflecting starlight. We're carrying more than survival. We're carrying a story, one worth telling. Korath made no sound, but its eyes softened, the glow dimming into a calm silver. Then tell it. For days they traveled without speaking. The hum of the ship their only company. Clara took to the small quarters she claimed as her own, recording the events that had brought her here. The trial, the dragon cell, the rebellion, the flight. She wrote not as a merchant, not as a fugitive, but as something more, a storyteller. They drifted toward the edge of a forgotten star system. Clara named it in her mind, Haven. A cluster of rocky worlds surrounded a pale gas giant, its rings shimmering like molten crystal. There was no dominion here, no tribunal, no sentence. Korath guided the ship toward a small moon, its surface covered in crystal forest that hummed faintly in the vacuum. Clara stepped onto the surface, boots crunching over iridescent glass-like dust. The air was breathable here, tinged with sense of something alive and ancient. Korath followed, its massive form bending to the low gravity with ease. Clara looked up at the stars again. We made it. Her voice was quiet, but filled with conviction. We survived. And maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something better. Korath inclined its head, a gesture Clara took for agreement. The galaxy remembers those who endure. You have proven it. She smiled softly. And maybe humans aren't just survivors. Maybe we're legends waiting to be born. Koratha's roar, deep resonant and filled with something like pride, echoed across the crystalline plains. Clara felt the vibration in her bones. It was not a sound of victory alone. It was a sound of defiance, of legacy. Somewhere in the endless stretch of the stars, Clara knew they would be remembered, not as fugitives, not as prisoners, but as proof that humanity could stand against anything, and that humanity could win. She took Koratha's claw in her hand. The dragon's breathing slowed. The ship waited. The stars beckoned. The story had only just begun. Final scene, the legacy of stars. The stolen ship drifted into the silence of an uncharted system. Beyond the viewport, a nebula burned like liquid glass, waves of violet and gold folding across themselves in slow motion. Stars hung like distant fires in the void, and somewhere deep in the hum of the vessel, Clara felt the pulse of something eternal, hope. Korath lay coiled beside her in the chamber, its armor glowing faintly, breathing a slow, resonant hum that matched the ship's engines. Clara stepped forward, placing her hand on its scaled forearm. The warmth of it was real, not mechanical, not alien, alive. You kept your word, she said softly. We survived. Koratha's voice thrummed in her mind, low and steady. We survived. But more than that, we endured. Together. Clara smiled, her eyes reflecting the swirling nebula beyond. We're not just survivors, Korath. We're proof. Proof that humans keep fighting, even when everything says we shouldn't. For a moment, they simply stood there, the hum of the ship and the vast silence of space binding them. Then Korath lowered its massive head until its glowing eyes met hers. Then we will carry that legacy. Clara pressed her forehead to Koratha's, a gesture both intimate and unshakable. And I'll carry it with you, she whispered. The ship slipped into the heart of the nebula. Outside, the stars blazed brighter than ever. Somewhere a new story began, and humanity, stubborn, defiant unbroken would be at its center.